Hi guys. Tonight we step onto the narrow, creaking deck of a medieval ship. Above your head, the sails snap like restless flags, ropes groan against the wooden masts, and the wind seems determined to tear the vessel apart. A cramped stairwell leads below deck, into the belly of the ship where you'll try to rest. The air down here is close, damp, and heavy with the mingled smells of salt water, tar, mildew, and unwashed men. You might think you can sleep anywhere, on a crowded flight or in a noisy dorm, but here. One night in this swaying darkness would leave you begging for land. So, before you get too comfortable, take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if you enjoy these journeys. And while you're at it, drop a comment. Where are you watching from, and what time is it right now? Now, dim the lights and let's wander deeper into the shadows. The first thing you notice as you descend is the way the light dies almost instantly. A few lanterns swing from iron hooks, flames guttering with each roll of the ship. Their glow is thin and smoky, hardly enough to see by. Dozens of men, packed shoulder to shoulder, move by memory alone. The planks beneath your feet are slick with seawater dripping from above, pooling into puddles that never truly dry. Each step comes with the squelch of damp leather. To lie directly on this floor means soaking through in minutes. And yet, some men must do exactly that. Hammocks, now iconic, were not yet standard. They became common only after sailors borrowed the idea from the Caribbean in the 15th and 16th centuries. Medieval sailors often had nothing but a damp cloak or a corner beside a leaking barrel of salted fish. The ship itself feels alive. Every wave bends the timbers until they groan in a wooden chorus that never stops. To some, the sound is maddening. To others, it's a lullaby. Proof the vessel still holds. Sailors even whispered that ships had moods, soft creaks meant she was calm, loud bellows meant she was angry. In moments of fear, men would murmur apologies to the boards beneath them, hoping the ship might forgive and steady herself. The storm outside hammers on. Above, sails snap like whips in the night sky. Water slams the planks, sluicing through gaps, pouring into the hold where you lie. Even here, you cannot escape it. The storm roars as though it wants to live inside your skull, vibrating through bone and nerve. Some sailors swore their dreams warned of coming storms, nightmares of broken masts and flooding decks that seemed to predict disaster. Maybe it was coincidence. Maybe their bodies sensed subtle changes before their minds did. Either way, omens mattered at sea. Below deck, sleep is a gamble. The pitch of the ship tosses you against your bunkmate until elbows and curses are exchanged in the dark. Privacy is a fantasy more distant than land. Hammocks, when used, sway like pendulums. Lantern light flickers across rows of faces, men muttering, twitching, clutching their arms as if bracing for a fall. Some tie themselves into their slings to keep from being flung onto the floor. The unlucky wake dangling sideways like flies caught in a web. This is no gentle cradle. Seasickness twists the stomach, lice and cough spread quickly in the damp, and the stench, tar, smoke, sweat, and fish, seeps into everything you own. Your clothes, your blanket, even your hair. Some sailors joked about it, others gagged at every fresh whiff, but eventually everyone carried the same perfume of survival. Yet men adapt. Even here, laughter finds its place. A muttered joke about the cook's stew being thicker than seawater ripples into chuckles. Shared misery becomes a bond. Historians still debate whether sailors ever truly slept well. Some argue their bodies adapted, stealing fragments of unconsciousness between duties. Others suggest crews stumbled half awake for months, reduced to shadows of themselves. But in the end, exhaustion always wins. Sleep here is not about comfort. It is about necessity. The timbers sing through the night, each groan running straight into your bones. Some sailors claimed they could tell danger from these sounds, hearing a shift in pitch that warned of splintering wood. Others knocked gently on the hull, believing the ship might answer, as though she were alive and listening. Silence was feared more than noise. A creaking ship meant she was bending, flexing, still fighting to survive. A quiet ship meant the wood had stiffened and might soon crack. For men lying awake in the hammocks, that endless chorus became both lullaby and alarm bell. Better the groans of survival than the silence of defeat. So you lie there in the swaying dark, cheek pressed to the planks, feeling the ship's heartbeat merge with your own. Around you, men mutter in dreams, snore, cough, and scratch in the smoky haze. Yet over it all hums the deeper sound, wood and wave, vessel and sea locked in their eternal struggle. You close your eyes. Whether or not true rest will come, you cannot say. But on this ship, on this night, you surrender to exhaustion and let the storm cradle you as it has cradled countless sailors before. The night drags on, and time loses its shape. Without a clock or a sunrise to guide you, hours blur into a long stretch of blackness punctuated only by the storm's fury. You begin to measure time by the rhythm of the creaks, by the swaying of lanterns, by the shifting weight of the men beside you. Each crash of water above feels eternal, yet the next always follows, and the next, and the next. Exhaustion dulls your senses. The sound of snoring merges with the groans of timber until you can no longer separate man from ship. The line between the vessel and its crew fades, as though the wood itself breathes with the lungs of the men it carries. In this blur, strange thoughts slip into your head. Perhaps the ship is alive. Perhaps it dreams with you, groaning in her sleep, swaying you like a child. A sudden roll sends a few hammocks banging against one another. Men curse in the dark, laughter breaking through a moment later. Humor at sea is sharp and fleeting, but it's essential. Without it, fear would take hold, and fear spreads faster than sickness. You notice how quickly moods ripple through the crew. One man's muttered prayer sparks another's. One man's nervous laugh becomes a chorus. In such tight quarters, emotion is as contagious as the flu. The storm refuses to relent. Its voice is thunder, its hands are waves, its breath the screaming wind. And yet, somewhere within this constant battering, your body begins to yield. Eyes heavy, limbs slack, you drift into a half-dream where the creaking of the hull becomes a lullaby and the rolling of the sea a cradle. But sleep is never whole. A sudden shout jerks you awake. Someone above has slipped, a rope snapping taut with a whip crack. Boots stamp overhead, orders barked into the night. The storm is not just noise, it is labor, endless labor. Men must climb the rigging, haul ropes, secure sails, no matter the hour. And for those below, rest breaks in jagged fragments each time duty calls. You roll over, cloak drawn tight, trying to block out the commotion. A man beside you whispers a prayer in a language you don't know. Another mutters something about omens, bad dreams, bad weather. In medieval journals, such mutterings appear often. Sailors believed their dreams were messages, warnings from the sea itself. A nightmare of drowning could send shivers through the entire crew. Sometimes the sea didn't need storms to terrify, it worked just as well through the subconscious. The smell grows thicker as the night wears on. Smoke, sweat, and damp wool saturate the air until breathing feels like swallowing brine. Your skin itches, your hair clings damp to your neck, and the hammock beneath you creaks with every restless shift. Yet strangely, you begin to accept it. The misery becomes background, like the noise, like the smell. Your body, against all odds, adapts. Somewhere near dawn, not that you can see it, the storm eases. The ship's groans soften, the sea's roar dims to a steady crash, and the lanterns burn lower, their light barely a flicker. Men stir, coughing, stretching, murmuring about watches and duties. No one has truly slept, yet everyone rises as though the night demanded it. Fatigue is carried like another piece of gear, always present, always heavy. You sit up in your hammock, head pounding, mouth dry. Around you, the crew shifts into motion. A few men scrape bowls for breakfast, though the stew is little more than hard bread and salted fish. Others climb back toward the deck, ready to face what remains of the storm. And you, your body aches, your eyes burn, and still, somehow, you've survived the night. One night down. Dozens more ahead. This is life at sea. Sleep here is never a gift. It is stolen, piecemeal, wrestled from the storm and the ship and the crowd of weary men. The voyage has barely begun. The morning, when it comes, is not a burst of sunlight but a dim gray leaking through the cracks in the planks above. There is no clear sunrise down here. The only way you know the storm has weakened is by the less frantic groan of the timbers, by the steadier rhythm of waves slapping the hull instead of pounding it. The hold stirs to life with the sound of boots, coughing, and the rattle of wooden bowls. Breakfast is announced not with cheer but with the scrape of ladles against iron pots. The smell that rises is familiar and uninviting, salted fish softened in boiling water, bread as hard as wood, and sometimes a thin ale to wash it down. This is food meant for endurance, not pleasure. You watch as men gather their portions. Some eat in silence, shoveling the meal into their mouths before stumbling toward duty. Others mutter complaints, though none expect change. The rations are the same day after day, week after week, until salt burns the tongue and the body dreams of fresh fruit. Scurvy, though not yet fully understood in the medieval world, waits quietly in the background of every long voyage. The air below deck grows even closer as the cook's fire lingers. Smoke curls around the beams, mixing with sweat and damp until it settles in your clothes. Breathing feels like inhaling yesterday's fatigue. A few men linger, trying to catch another stolen nap before their watch begins. Their hammocks sway gently, bodies twitching in uneasy rest. Above, the deck calls. You climb the cramped stair, blinking as the daylight strikes your eyes. The sea is still restless, waves rolling in gray swells that make the horizon buckle and sway. The sails, patched and heavy, strain against the wind. Men clamber through the rigging, barefoot and sure-footed, their hands raw from rope burns. Orders fly back and forth, half swallowed by the gusts, but every man knows his role. In this world, hesitation is dangerous. The ship itself demands constant tending. Ropes fray, masts strain, barrels shift in the hold. The ocean does not forgive mistakes, and medieval ships were crude tools against its power. Each creak reminds you how thin the line is between survival and ruin. You catch sight of a man scraping pitch into a crack, sealing the seam against the endless leaks. Another coils ropes with practiced rhythm, his movements more habit than thought. Exhaustion clings to them all, but the routine is unbreakable. Work is the only way to endure. There are sails to mend, decks to scrub, bilges to empty of the seawater that forever finds its way inside. The ship must be kept alive. The wind shifts, and with it comes the smell of the sea itself, sharp, briny, endless. It cuts through the staleness of the hold, and for a moment, you breathe easier. Men glance to the horizon, searching for any sign of land, though none expect it. Out here, days stretch without landmarks, only the endless undulation of water and sky. Stories begin to circulate, as they always do. A sailor near you mutters about omens, seabirds seen in a dream, strange shapes spotted in the waves, a patch of sky that glowed too bright. Superstition is the currency of the sea. Without it, there would only be fear. Better to believe the ocean whispers secrets than to admit it cares nothing for human lives. By midday, the sun burns faintly through the clouds. Men strip to their shirts, sweating under the labor, skin already red and cracked from salt. The sea is calmer now, but the memory of the storm lingers in every movement, hands tighter on the ropes, eyes scanning the horizon for the next dark line of weather. And through it all, the question of sleep lingers like a shadow. Everyone knows the night will return, with its groaning timbers, swaying hammocks, and suffocating air. Rest is never enough. Yet they endure. Because the ship demands it. Because the sea demands it. You stand at the rail, watching the waves roll beneath, and you realize the truth: this voyage is not only across water, but across endurance itself. A test of how long men can survive on scraps of food, fragments of sleep, and faith that the ship will hold. The day has only just begun. By the time the sun leans westward, the ship has settled into its rhythm. Orders are barked, ropes hauled, barrels shifted, and all of it flows with the inevitability of tide and time. But beneath that rhythm lies another heartbeat, the law of the sea, and the punishments waiting for those who falter. Discipline is not a suggestion here. It is survival. A man who shirks his duty, who knots a rope badly, who lets a line slip in the rigging, he endangers them all. And the captain knows it. His word is iron. His eyes sweep the deck like a hawk's, and no mistake escapes them. You witness a moment of that harsh order. A sailor, young and raw, too slow to respond to a shouted command. The rope he was meant to secure whips loose, nearly striking another man across the face. In the blink of an eye, the captain is there. No long speeches, no room for excuses. A lash of the rope across the boy's shoulders. Sharp. Immediate. The sound cuts sharper than the wind. The lesson is written in pain, and the crew watches in silence. No one protests. On this ship, punishment is as natural as the waves. There are worse fates, whispered about when the night grows too long. Keelhauling, where a man is dragged under the belly of the ship, scraping against barnacles until his skin is torn to ribbons. Or being cast adrift in a small boat, the sea itself left to decide your end. Such tales circulate in low voices, reminders of what the ocean demands: obedience. Still, even here, humanity clings in fragments. A man hums as he coils rope, a song from some distant village. Another carves a figure into a scrap of wood, passing the time with his knife. Laughter, when it comes, is rough and fleeting, more bark than music, but it carries a strange power. In those moments, the men are not just sailors, but sons, fathers, brothers, longing for the lands left behind. The dangers of the sea itself are never far. Even now, as the ship glides steadier, the deck is slick with salt water, ropes taut like snares waiting to catch the unwary. A misstep in the rigging could send a man plunging to the deck, or worse, overboard. And once overboard, you are already gone. No medieval ship turns easily. The sea does not wait. Toward evening, a cry goes up. The horizon is alive with movement. Dolphins, sleek, silver arcs cutting through the waves. Their presence draws men to the rails, smiles breaking across weary faces. Some take it as a sign of good fortune, others simply as a brief joy in the monotony. For a moment, the crew is united in wonder, eyes following the creatures as they leap and vanish into the deep. But soon the spell fades, and duty returns. The sails must be trimmed. The deck scrubbed. Buckets lowered to bring up seawater for washing. Always the ship must be tended, as if it were a living thing that demands constant care. And then the light begins to fail. The sea darkens, the horizon dissolves into shadow. The lanterns are lit once more, casting their trembling glow over tired faces. Another night approaches. Another long stretch of groaning wood, swaying hammocks, and the endless struggle for rest in a place where rest never truly comes. The men brace themselves, some with muttered prayers, some with silent resolve. Because they know the truth, the sea is never the same from one night to the next. And as the darkness closes in, you wonder what this night will bring. Days slip into one another, marked less by sunrise and sunset than by the rhythm of bells rung aboard the ship. 8 bells end a watch, for hours passed, and another group of weary men stumbles to their stations while others collapse into hammocks. Time here is not measured in calendars or clocks, but in rope burns, calluses, and the ache of salt in your throat. Food grows harder to stomach. The bread, already stale, crumbles into dust when bitten. The salted meat sweats grease, its surface crawling with maggots that sailors shake off with practiced indifference. Some men mutter that the meat smells too strongly of earth, as if it were half buried before it ever touched a fire. Still, they eat. Hunger leaves no choice. Soon, sickness takes root. A man sits slumped against the mast, lips split and bleeding, gums swollen and red. He can barely chew. Others whisper the word scurvy, a curse feared more than storms, born of weeks without fresh food. His skin grows mottled with purple blotches, and he winces at every touch. Some men pity him. Others avoid him, as if his weakness itself might spread. Below deck, the air thickens. The hammocks sway in a fog of sweat and mildew. Rats skitter through the shadows, bold enough to nibble at crumbs beneath sleeping men. Their squeaks echo like whispers in the wood. Cats were sometimes kept on ships to hunt them, but not every voyage was so lucky. Here, the rats reign unchallenged, fattened on spilled grain. And then, strange sights break the monotony. At dawn one morning, a cry rises from the lookout high in the crow's nest. Shapes in the water. Dark, shifting, gliding alongside the ship. Sailors rush to the rail, their faces pale in the gray light. Fins cut the surface, long and sharp, circling the hull. Sharks. They follow for hours, sometimes days, shadows waiting for the unlucky slip or fall. No sailor dares to lean too far over now. Other days bring wonders instead of dread. Schools of dolphins dart in the wake, leaping and diving, their sleek bodies shining like quicksilver. The men laugh, spirits lifted, for dolphins are good omens. Some claim they guide lost sailors home. Others speak of whales, their backs breaking the surface like rising islands, spouts of water jetting into the sky. The sea holds terror, yes, but beauty too, vast and ungraspable. Nights remain the hardest. Lanterns swing in the wind, casting shadows that stretch like reaching arms. The groan of wood seems louder in the dark, almost a voice. Men whisper of ghosts, of sailors lost in storms who still walk the decks at night. A few claim they've seen pale figures on the prow, staring out to sea, only to vanish when approached. No one laughs at these stories. On a medieval ship, superstition is not entertainment, it is survival. And so the voyage drags onward. Blistered hands pull ropes, weary bodies bail water, hollow stomachs chew what little remains. Each man clings to something, a prayer, a charm, a scrap of memory from home. For out here, where the horizon swallows every shore, the line between faith and madness is thin as a frayed rope. The sea gives. The sea takes. And always, the ship creaks forward, deeper into the endless unknown. The first warning comes with the wind. It begins as a sigh, a restless stirring that ripples the surface of the ocean. The lookout calls down, voice sharp, pointing to the west where the horizon darkens like ink spilling across the sky. Clouds gather low and heavy, swallowing the light. The sea, which only hours ago shone with silver calm, grows restless, rolling in thicker, heavier swells. The order goes out, reef the sails. Men scramble into the rigging, climbing like insects up the swaying mast. Canvas flaps and snaps above, loud as cannon fire, as sailors wrestle with the ropes. Every knot must hold. Every stitch in the sail becomes a matter of life and death. Below, others lash barrels and crates tight, securing anything that might slide when the ship begins to heave. The storm breaks fast. The wind roars, tearing through the rigging with a shriek like screaming voices. Rain lashes down in sheets, blinding, cold as knives. The sea lifts in walls of black water, each wave crashing against the hull with the force of a hammer. The ship groans, timbers straining, every joint shuddering as if the ocean means to tear it apart plank by plank. Commands are shouted, but the storm swallows voices. Men cling to ropes, to masts, to anything fixed, their bodies whipped by spray. A lantern breaks loose, shattering against the deck, sparks dying instantly in the deluge. The world becomes chaos, wind, water, darkness, and the endless roar of the sea. Then comes the worst sound of all, the cry of a man overboard. Through the blur of rain, you see him, a figure flung into the waves, arms thrashing once, twice, before the sea swallows him whole. A rope is thrown, but it falls short. The ship cannot stop, cannot turn, not in this fury. The man is gone in seconds, dragged into the black depths. No prayer can reach him now. The crew works with desperation. The tiller strains under the helmsman's grip, the ship bucking like a beast determined to throw its riders. Buckets pass hand to hand as men bail water, fighting to keep the ship from drowning. Salt stings your eyes, your throat, every cut in your skin. Breath comes ragged, stolen by the wind. And then, light. Not from the sun, but from the heavens themselves. Lightning splits the sky, blinding white, searing the world into a single frozen image, the mast towering above, sails whipping like torn banners, men clinging like shadows. Thunder follows, a crack so violent it shakes the bones inside your chest. Hours pass. Or perhaps minutes. Time is meaningless inside the storm's belly. Finally, as if the sea has grown tired of its own rage, the wind eases. The rain softens. The waves, though still towering, no longer rise like mountains intent on destruction. The crew slumps, bodies trembling with exhaustion, faces hollow with grief. One man is gone. Others are injured, rope burned, battered, eyes wide with shock. But the ship floats still. Against all odds, it survives. The storm leaves silence in its wake. The ocean stretches once more into a dark, endless plain. The clouds thin, and stars blink back into the sky, cold and indifferent. Some men mutter prayers of thanks. Others spit into the sea, cursing it. The dead man's absence lingers, heavy as the sodden ropes. His hammock will hang empty below deck. His share of rations will be divided. His name will fade into a whisper, a reminder that the sea always takes what it pleases. And so the voyage continues. The storm has passed, but its memory clings to every creaking plank, every trembling hand. Out here, survival is never guaranteed. Every sunrise is borrowed time. Morning comes reluctantly. The sky is pale and washed out, the color of old bone. The sea rolls heavy and sluggish, groaning as though it too remembers the violence of the night. The deck is littered with debris, snapped ropes, shattered barrels, wood splintered from the rail. Saltwater pools in every crack. The smell of wet timber and soaked cloth clings to everything. The men move like ghosts. Their eyes are rimmed red, their hands raw, their bodies bent with exhaustion. Each step on the deck feels heavier than the last, as though their souls were lashed as hard as the sails. The empty space where one man should stand gnaws at them all. His absence is a wound that no one dares speak of directly. Some whisper his name. Others stay silent, believing the sea might hear and hunger for another. The work never stops. Ropes must be spliced. Sails patched. Crates shifted, barrels checked for damage. Water has seeped into the stores, soaking bread until it turns to mush and rot. Salt meat spoiled by seawater is tossed overboard, though some men watch it sink with longing. Fewer rations remain now, and hunger sharpens in every glance, every muttered word. Below deck, the stench is worse than ever. Hammocks hang damp, their ropes slick with mildew. Rats have grown bolder, skittering openly across the beams, gnawing at leather, cloth, anything they can pierce with their teeth. A man wakes screaming in the night, a rat biting his hand. The others laugh nervously, but the sound rings hollow. Even vermin grow desperate here. Sickness spreads. The man with swollen gums now lies curled in his sling, too weak to rise. His teeth loosen, his skin sags against his bones. Others complain of aching joints, of bleeding sores that do not heal. The word scurvy hovers like a curse over the hold. They know what it means. They have seen men rot alive before. And then there are the whispers. Two sailors huddle by the stern, voices low. They speak of the captain's choices, of turning too far from shore, of wasting provisions, of keeping secrets. Another joins them, eyes darting, muttering about a hidden hoard of fresh water kept for the officers alone. The words are poison, seeping through the crew, drop by drop. No one dares say mutiny, but the thought swells like a bruise. At night, superstition grows wild. Men claim they hear footsteps on deck when all are below. A lantern swinging where no lantern was lit. Some swear the storm has awakened spirits of the drowned, that the sea carries voices, whispering in the dark. One man refuses to sleep, convinced he saw the dead sailor's face beneath the waves, staring up through the water with eyes pale as glass. The captain knows the danger. His voice is harsh, his punishment swift. A man caught stealing a biscuit is lashed until his back is raw. Another, accused of idleness, is tied to the mast for hours, left to burn beneath the sun. Discipline keeps the ship afloat, but fear and hatred coil tighter with each day. Still, the sea stretches on. Horizon after horizon, endless, merciless. No gulls, no driftwood, no sign of land. Only water, sky, and the groan of timbers. One evening, as the sun bleeds red into the waves, a lookout calls down. Something in the distance, shapes breaking the horizon. Hope flares, wild and desperate. But as the ship draws nearer, the shapes reveal themselves not as land, but as wreckage. A mast, broken, jutting from the sea like a finger pointing to heaven. Bits of planking drift alongside, stripped and sodden. No survivors. Only the memory of another crew, swallowed whole. The men stare in silence, their faces pale. Some cross themselves. Others spit into the sea, muttering oaths. The wreckage floats past, silent testimony to what fate might soon be theirs. And the ship creaks on. Deeper into the unknown. The days grow longer. Or perhaps they only feel that way. Time on the ocean is a strange thing, measured not by sun or stars, but by the ache in the body, the emptiness in the belly, the endless repetition of labor. Pull the ropes. Scrub the deck. Bail the water. Chew the same dry crust of bread. Sleep in the same damp sling. Wake, repeat. The rations dwindle. A sailor holds up his portion of meat, thin as a strip of leather, crawling with white larvae. He scrapes them away with a knife, muttering curses, then forces it down anyway. Hunger makes beasts of men. Another gnaws at a strip of old rope tar, spitting black strands but chewing still. The water tastes worse now, sour and sharp, carrying the stink of rot. Men gag, then drink anyway. Sickness spreads like smoke. The sick groan in their hammocks, their bodies twisted, their gums bleeding, their breath rank. Some beg for citrus, for herbs, for anything green. But the sea offers no gardens. Their pleas go unanswered. One man dies in the night, his body stiff before dawn. At sunrise, he is sewn into canvas, a weight tied at his feet, and slid over the side. The splash is small. The sea swallows him without ceremony. His name is spoken once, then silence. Tension coils tighter. The crew glares at officers with narrowed eyes, convinced they eat better, drink cleaner. 2 men are caught sneaking into the stores. They are dragged before the captain, who has no choice but to act. Discipline must be blood. One is flogged until his back runs red. The other is shackled in irons near the bow, left in spray and wind. The men watch, silent, their faces dark. Punishment does not kill their hunger. At night, the whispers grow louder. A knot of sailors speak in shadows, muttering of taking the ship for themselves. Why starve while the captain drinks? One hisses. Another nods, eyes fever bright. The word mutiny is not spoken, not yet, but it hangs in the air like thunder before lightning. And the sea, always the sea, plays its part in their unraveling. Strange lights glow beneath the waves some nights, flickers like ghostly lanterns drifting far below. Some call them sea spirits, guiding souls of the drowned. Others call them omens, warnings to turn back. One sailor swears he saw a pale hand in the water, reaching up toward the hull. He has not slept since, eyes hollow, whispering prayers with cracked lips. The captain stands stern and proud, but even he is worn thin. His face is carved with lines of worry, his eyes sunken. He knows mutiny grows like rot in the beams. His commands are louder now, harsher, but fear is no longer enough to bind the men. Hunger whispers louder. Another week passes. The bread is gone. The salted meat, nearly gone. The last of the ale is ladled out, thin and sour. The water is all that remains, and even that reeks. Bellies cramp. Bodies weaken. Minds slip. Then one night, it happens. A fight breaks on deck, sudden and violent. 2 sailors grapple, fists flying, knives flashing in the lantern light. The others circle, hungry for blood, for release. The boatswain wades in, cracking his rope's end, but the crowd surges. Shouts rise, curses fill the night, and in the chaos, a voice finally dares speak it aloud. Mutiny. The word is a spark in dry tinder. The crew roars, divided, some shouting for freedom, others for loyalty. Blades glint. Feet stamp. The ship itself seems to shudder, as though the sea were listening. The captain steps forward, hand on his sword. His voice cuts through the storm of men. Back to your stations, or by God, we all go to the deep tonight. For a heartbeat, silence. The men waver, snarling, breathing hard, knuckles white on hilts and ropes. The sea crashes against the hull. The lantern swings, shadows stretching. The moment hangs, fragile as glass. One word. One blow. And everything will break. The standoff cannot last. Men are not built for silence, not with hunger gnawing at their insides and rage burning in their throats. The first blow lands, a fist against a jaw, a grunt, the sharp crack of bone. Then the storm breaks. Knives flash, fists swing, boots slam against the wet deck. The ship becomes an arena, a wooden cage rattling with fury. Some men lunge for the captain, others defend him, and in the chaos no one knows who is friend or foe. The boatswain's whip lashes flesh, tearing screams into the night. A man falls, blood spilling across the planks, carried swiftly toward the scuppers by seawater sloshing underfoot. The ship lists hard, as though recoiling from the violence. Lanterns crash from their hooks, oil spilling fire across the boards. Shadows leap high, monstrous, as men grapple in the flickering glow. Someone kicks the blaze out with a soaked cloak, but not before smoke fills the air, choking the lungs of all who breathe it. The captain fights like a man possessed, blade flashing, his voice cutting through the madness. Back to order. Back to your duty, or you damn us all. But his words are swallowed by the storm of voices. The hunger is louder. The fury is older. And then. A sound. Not the groan of timbers. Not the crack of rope. Something else. Something deep. A booming note that shudders through the hull like the voice of a giant rising from the abyss. The fighting halts for a breath. Men freeze, bloodied hands still clutching knives, eyes wide in the dim light. Another boom follows, then a groan so vast it feels as though the sea itself were calling. God preserve us, someone whispers. From the black waves beyond the railing comes a light, not moonlight, not lantern flame, but a glow from below. Pale, shifting, like a swarm of stars rising up from the deep. The water churns with it, a greenish-white shimmer spreading wide around the ship. The glow pulses, and the timbers answer with a groan that rattles every nail. Some men fall to their knees, crossing themselves, muttering prayers. Others back away, faces ashen, knives forgotten. The mutiny collapses under the weight of fear. The captain seizes the moment, his voice harsh as iron. Back to your posts. Whatever devil rises from the deep tonight, you'll not meet it as cowards. Reluctantly, trembling, the men obey. Blades slip back into sheaths. The blood on the deck gleams red in the ghostly light, but no one dares speak of it now. Their quarrel has been swallowed by something greater. Hours pass. The glow fades. The sea grows quiet once more, though the memory lingers like a taste of iron on the tongue. No one mentions mutiny the next day. They work in silence, eyes darting off into the black water, waiting for the light to return. At night, in the hammocks, men whisper of omens. Some say the drowned came calling. Others claim the sea itself warned them to stop before tearing the ship apart. No one knows. No one dares to know. But all feel it, the balance has shifted. The ship is no longer just wood and rope. It is a stage where hunger, madness, and the sea itself conspire. And the voyage is far from over. The glow is gone, but its echo remains. Men work quietly now, shoulders bent, eyes lowered. The mutiny is buried under silence, yet its embers still smolder. Hunger gnaws louder with each passing day, and the memory of light in the waves has left them wary of their own shadows. The ship creaks endlessly, its voice rising and falling like a living thing. Some men swear they hear whispers in the wood, low murmurs that sound almost like words. A prayer, perhaps. Or a warning. They press their ears to the planks and insist they hear voices carried up from the deep. The captain calls it madness, a trick of exhaustion. But more than one sailor crosses himself before touching the timbers now, as if seeking forgiveness. Rations shrink to nothing. The cook's barrel offers only scraps, stale crusts black with mold, and water thick with slime. Men chew leather straps, suck salt from their sleeves, anything to quiet the pangs. Teeth loosen. Gums bleed. The curse of scurvy takes root. Some men stumble at their posts, their bodies weak, their eyes vacant. And then comes the storm. It rises without warning, the sky darkening as though ink spills across the horizon. The wind shrieks, tearing at the sails until they snap like whips. The sea rises in mountains of black water, each one threatening to swallow the vessel whole. Men scramble, ropes burning their palms, the captain shouting orders none can hear over the roar. Lightning forks across the sky, painting the ship in white brilliance. For an instant, you see faces, not of the crew, but pale forms in the water below. Dozens, perhaps hundreds. Staring up. Eyes wide, mouths open as if screaming, though no sound carries through the thunder. They vanish with the next wave. Spirits, someone screams. Panic spreads faster than the storm. Men let go of the ropes, stumbling back, crossing themselves. The captain rages, striking one across the jaw with the flat of his blade. Hold fast, you dogs, or we'll all be damned. The ship groans, bending like a bow under the sea's assault. Water slams across the deck, sweeping two sailors into the dark. Their screams are brief, cut short as the waves swallow them whole. The lanterns gutter out, leaving only lightning to mark the terror. When the storm finally breaks, the ship is battered, its sails shredded, its crew hollow-eyed and trembling. They huddle in the dark, shivering, whispering prayers. Some swear they still see faces in the foam. Others mutter that the sea has marked them, and that no voyage ending in land can follow such omens. The next morning, silence reigns. Even the gulls are gone. The sea is calm, too calm, its surface flat as polished glass. Not a breeze stirs the rigging. The ship hangs adrift, suspended between sky and water. And in that silence comes a new sound, soft, steady, impossible. Knocking. From the hull. 3 slow thuds, as though someone, or something, taps gently from the other side of the wood. Then silence. Then again. The crew gathers, pale and wide-eyed, listening. The sound comes and goes, never in the same place twice. By the second day of calm, the sea is a mirror. The sails hang limp, useless rags. The sun burns without mercy, baking the timbers, blistering skin. Thirst sets in sharper than hunger now, tongues thick, lips split and bleeding. Every barrel is nearly dry. Men hover over the water casks like vultures, measuring every drop with trembling hands. And still, knocking. Sometimes it comes at night, sometimes in broad daylight, echoing through the hull like a heartbeat. Always steady. Always patient. Never hurried. A reminder. A summons. The captain orders the men to ignore it, swearing that madness spreads faster than disease. But they whisper among themselves. A bargain is being asked of them, they say. The sea is knocking because it wants something in return. On the third night, one man cannot bear it. He rises from his hammock, his eyes glazed, his steps slow as if sleepwalking. He does not speak. He does not look at the others. He simply climbs the ladder, steps to the rail, and leaps silently into the glassy water. No splash. No ripple. The sea swallows him like a mouth taking in a breath. When dawn comes, the ship is one man fewer. And the knocking is louder. The crew frays at the edges. Some lash themselves to the mast for fear of walking overboard in their sleep. Others sharpen blades, muttering of mutiny once more, claiming the captain has doomed them all. Then, another sign. Far off, on the horizon, a shadow takes shape. At first they think it's a cloud. Then a mountain. But no, too sharp, too angular. It is another ship. A black shape against the sun, sails slack, drifting like their own. Excitement surges. They shout, they wave, they drag out a tattered flag and raise it high. Rescue, they cry. A miracle. But as the black ship draws nearer, joy curdles into dread. No voices answer their calls. No figures move on deck. The vessel glides closer and closer, silent as death. Its sails are torn, its timbers waterlogged and pale. And yet, it moves, without wind, without oar. The two ships drift nearly side by side now. The silence is suffocating. Lanterns sway on the abandoned vessel, but no hand touches them. The deck is littered with ropes, with tools, with scraps of clothing, yet no living soul stirs. And then one sailor sees it. A figure at the rail. A woman, pale as salt, her hair long and black, dripping as though fresh from the sea. She stares across the water, unblinking, her lips curved in the faintest of smiles. Her eyes are so dark, so deep, they might as well be the sea itself. Every man freezes. Not one breath stirs. The woman raises her hand. Slowly. Gracefully. And taps once on the rail. Knock. The sound carries across the water, sharp as a drumbeat. The crew erupts into chaos. Some fall to their knees, praying. Others scramble for weapons. The captain bellows for order, but his voice cracks for the first time. The men have seen too much, heard too much. The woman's smile widens. And then she is gone. Vanished. As if she had never stood there at all. But the black ship does not vanish. It drifts closer still, its hull scraping against theirs with a sound like teeth grinding together. The two vessels are now bound side by side, swaying together on the breathless sea. The knocking begins again, this time from both ships. The two ships groan against one another, timbers straining, nails shrieking in their sockets. Every man waits, breath held, staring at the black vessel. It leans against them like a corpse pressed to the living. The smell comes first, brine and rot, sweet as decay in the heat. Board her, the captain orders at last, his voice brittle. Find what's there. Bring back water, food, anything. But no one moves. The men left behind lean over the rail, listening, waiting. Minutes stretch. The sea holds its breath. Then a scream tears the stillness, ragged, desperate, cut short as though choked off mid-breath. The captain curses and shouts for them to return. One sailor stumbles back across the gap, his face gray, his eyes wide and vacant. He collapses on their deck, foaming at the mouth. No words come, only a rasping moan. His fingernails are broken, torn bloody, as if he had clawed at something. Someone. The others never return. From that moment, no man dares set foot on the black ship again. But it does not drift away. It stays bound against them, tethered by no rope, as if the sea itself has stitched them together. That night, the crew gathers in whispers. Some swear they hear voices drifting from the black ship, low chants in a language no man knows, carried on the windless air. Others say they see movement, pale figures pacing the deck, shadows that stretch too long, hands that do not match their shapes. The knocking grows louder. Not from the hull this time, but from beneath the very deck on which they sit. Steady, patient, like nails against a coffin lid. Bang! 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 Men flee their hammocks, pressing their ears to the planks, listening in horror. The sound is close now, impossibly close, as if hands beat from inside the wood itself. One sailor breaks. He seizes an axe and slams it down into the planks, screaming to free whatever is trapped below. Splinters fly. A hole gapes open. Water does not pour in. Instead, silence. And then, from the black ship beside them, a dozen pale faces appear at the rail. Watching. Smiling. Their eyes black as tar, their mouths curled in joyless grins. The crew stumbles back in terror, some dropping to their knees, others running blindly across the deck. The captain himself falters, his hand slipping from his sword. The sea remains flat as glass. The sky above is a pale sheet of gray, horizonless, endless. Time itself seems broken. No dawn, no dusk, no stars, only the dim light of a world emptied of all direction. The two ships remain bound together, silent as twins sharing one heartbeat. The crew does not eat. The crew does not sleep. They only listen. Bang! 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 The knocking now comes from everywhere, above, below, within the timbers. It vibrates through the very bones of the ship, through the teeth in their jaws, through the veins in their skulls. Some clutch their heads and scream. Others sit in silence, rocking back and forth, humming hymns to themselves. The captain stands alone at the prow, his uniform in tatters, his eyes hollow. He whispers to the sea, though no man hears the words. Perhaps a bargain. Perhaps a confession. And then, movement. The figures from the black ship begin to cross. One by one, pale and dripping, their bare feet silent on the planks. They do not climb, do not leap. They simply step, as though the water itself were a bridge. The sailors scatter in terror, but there is nowhere to flee. The apparitions spread across the deck, moving among them with smiles that never touch their eyes. Some men collapse where they stand, their bodies limp as if strings had been cut. Others fall to their knees, whispering prayers, begging forgiveness. The captain does not move. He watches as the first pale woman reaches him. She leans close, her lips brushing his ear. He shudders once, and drops his sword. The sea rises. Not in waves, but in hands. Pale arms of water curl up from the glassy surface, wrapping around the hull, caressing it, pulling. The ships groan, wood shrieking, masts tilting. One sailor leaps overboard in blind panic, yet he does not splash. The sea swallows him whole without a sound, as though it were not water but breath. Another man is lifted straight into the air by unseen hands, his scream ending in a gurgle as he is dragged beneath the surface. The knocking grows faster, louder, until it becomes a drumbeat, a rhythm that fills the air, the sea, the sky. Bang 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 bang. And then, silence. The ships are gone. Where once two hulks drifted, there is nothing now but an empty horizon. The sea lies flat and smooth, unbroken, endless. No wreckage. No mast. No man. Only water stretching into forever. But if you lean close, if you dare listen in the quiet, you might hear it still. A soft, steady sound. Bang. 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 As though from beneath the sea itself. Knocking. Always knocking. Waiting for the next ship to come.